In this week's market update, fallout from Thomas Cook's collapse spreads across the travel industry, world leaders meet in New York for UN General Assembly, and Labour Party members battle with Brexit at annual conference. This week, Thomas Cook became the latest casualty on the high street. After a weekend of crisis talks, the company failed to secure a rescue package and announced yesterday it had no choice but to take steps to enter into compulsory liquidation immediately. The collapse of the travel company leaves 21,000 jobs at risk, with 150,000 holidaymakers stranded abroad. But it's not just the UK economy this affects. The fallout has hit the whole of the company's international supply chain. According to German news agency DPA, 140,000 German travellers have been affected, while hotels that work solely for Thomas Cook, particularly in the Canary Islands and Turkey, now face a very uncertain future. Many lessons will be learned from the collapse. However, for most investors, the news hasn't come as much of a surprise. 8 years ago, the company came close to insolvency and was rescued by a group of banks with an emergency loan. Since then, a series of profit warnings has followed. In May, the company revealed it had debts of £1.2 billion. In August, it secured a £900 million rescue deal led by its largest shareholder, Chinese firm Fosun. However, a recent demand from its banks to raise a further £200 million in contingency funding had put the deal in doubt. The rescue operation required for Thomas Cook holidaymakers is far larger than that of Monarch, which collapsed 2 years ago. In October 2017, around 30 aircraft were sent to bring 85,000 Monarch customers back to the UK. For this repatriation of Thomas Cook customers, the government has chartered 45 planes at an expected cost of up to £100 million. Thomas Cook's main rival TUI was the biggest gainer on the FTSE 100 yesterday, rising 6% on hopes of tighter package holiday capacity and improved pricing. TUI and Thomas Cook overlap in key markets, including the UK, Germany and the Nordic countries. Thomas Cook has blamed a series of issues for its problems, including political unrest in holiday destinations such as Turkey, last summer's prolonged heatwave, and customers delaying booking holidays because of Brexit. But how we choose and buy our holidays has changed dramatically over the 178 years since Thomas Cook was founded. Ultimately, it's the internet that's driven the majority of people away from high street travel agents. In other news, world leaders are meeting in New York for the United Nations General Assembly. This kicked off with a UN climate summit yesterday, where 16-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg delivered a sharp rebuke to world leaders. She said their inaction over global warming was failing future generations and pushing the world towards an era of mass extinction. The annual UN General Assembly is effectively the world's parliament, where all of the UN's 193 member states are represented. While it's not as powerful as the Security Council, the General Assembly can express world opinion and make recommendations to the Security Council. Each of the leaders are given a time limit of 15 minutes to speak in front of the world. Climate change is likely to be a key topic this year. Brazilian leader Jair Bolsonaro will make his debut appearance, and following concerns over massive fires and deforestation of the Brazilian Amazon, it is likely the pro-business president will take climate advocates head-on. Following last week's mysterious attack on Saudi oil fields, and with the US pointing the finger at Iran, all eyes will be on whether President Trump will meet Iranian President Rouhani while they're both under the same roof. Nothing is planned between the two leaders, but Mr. Trump is well known for his spontaneity. Since the attacks last week, which caused the price of Brent crude to spike to over $69 a barrel, the cost of oil has stabilised to $64 a barrel, while on Friday the US imposed more sanctions on Iran. Back on this side of the Atlantic, the Labour Party is holding its annual conference in Brighton this week. As ever, Brexit has continued to dominate the debate, as party members voted last night to keep a neutral position on whether to stay or leave the EU at the next general election. Following a 2.5-hour debate on Monday, delegates voted to support the leadership's position on holding another Brexit referendum in all circumstances. But how Labour would campaign in such a vote would be decided after an election through a special conference. A rival motion to force Jeremy Corbyn to end his neutral stance and back Remain at both an election and a referendum was defeated. Aside from Brexit, Labour has announced a pledge to introduce free personal care in England for over 65s, as well as a pledge to move to a 4-day or 32-hour working week within a decade without any cut to pay. Controversially, in what would be the most radical education policy for generations, the party's conference has also voted to integrate private schools into the state sector. The plan would see the assets of private schools redistributed, and the schools would lose their charitable status and tax exemptions. The move would also mean universities would have a quota imposed of admitting no more than 7% of their students from private schools, so their numbers were in keeping with their proportion in the overall school population. Within hours of its announcement, the Headmasters' and Headmistresses' Conference, representing a group of private schools, warned the policy would be tested in the courts for years to come. Finally, in a quiet week for company results, investors will be watching online fashion retailer Boohoo when it posts half-year results on Wednesday. News that it had been able to lift its full-year sales guidance after better than expected performance in the first half of the year saw the shares rise to a new all-time high of 280 pence. The company said it now anticipated that results for the current financial year would be ahead of previous guidance, with group sales growth now expected to be between 33% and 38%, up from previous guidance of 25% to 30%.